Hello and welcome to another excellent episode of Rambling Randy, the only show where you can get facts no printer in your ear from a guy you don't even know on the internet spouting absolute fire takes. Uh, anyway, today we're going to be talking about Arashi no Yoru ni and Uchiage Hanabi. Uh, and I guess we'll start with Arashi no Yoru ni, or In the Night of the Storm. Anyway, this movie caught me off guard. It's made in 2005 by Group TAC. It's not even worth mentioning the staff behind it because I have no idea who any of them are. I checked it out and it's literally no one I know, so I'm not going to speak on it. Anyway, I was pleasantly surprised with this movie because it actually had a lot more substance than I actually anticipated it to because, as you might see from the picture I'm showing you on screen right now, it looks kind of like a kids movie. Um, and to that extent, you could claim it is a kids movie, but I think that'd be doing it a disservice because it is pretty artful when it wants to be and has a lot of adult themes that I don't think a lot of kids may relate to. But I think that some kids may enjoy this movie as well. I just think that like this is a pretty deceiving film from what the picture sees. So that's why I tend to not look at synopses and stuff like that. And plus, a synopsis is not even really representative of the entire movie. Anyway, let's start talking about production level because I think that a large part of this movie is how absolutely gorgeous some of these background art, some of this background art and character animation is because god damn did they do a good job on it. I am not kidding when I say this, but this is maybe actually some of the best um I don't want to say the best though. I just want to say really great. Just just overall animation in general. I don't know how to talk about animation in a way that some other people do. When I say that, you know, these animals are so fluid and that doesn't really make any sense. So I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to say that I think that a lot of the scenes were staged well enough so that the animation had room to really pop out of the screen for you and have a lot of oomph to it. You know what I'm saying? Like every single time a character moves, it's with purpose and with a plan because it's not like they're moving erratically or anything. It's silly, it's comical in a way, and I like that about this movie. It's serious but also has a non-serious tone at the same time and it blends really well. It's it's done to a point where I think that without the comedy, I think this would be a bit too overwhelming and a bit too I think my opinion of it would be hindered a little bit because there's nothing to alleviate the tensions between a lot of these characters. Anyway, because the movie has a high production value, I don't think that increases my opinion of it a lot. I think that it helps because even with it helps in a way that even if it had like 2005 production, because 2005 production is not always the best. I think that even without it, it would still be a very fine movie for most people to watch, and I don't think anybody who really takes animation seriously would have a problem with it because the writing and the dialogue makes up for it really wholeheartedly. I think that the directing was all right. I didn't really I don't really know how to uh comment on it because it wasn't too spectacular to a point where I was like noticing quirks about it being, you know, really stunning. I think more often than not, most of the writing came off as really sparky and built a connection between myself and the characters really effectively. Anyway, the whole plot centers around these two characters named Mei and Gabu, and although they are really well, obviously you can see from the picture it's a goat and a wolf, and in any normal scenario a goat and a wolf would not be friends under any circumstances, and this movie kind of explores that ideas. It explores their differences and similarities in a way that essentially is a commentary on racism in a way, which is what I drew out of the first part of this movie, is that it's a commentary on racism because you know Different but alike is the common theme of this first part. Basically, we open up in this sequence where they're both put into a scenario where they are in a dark cabin taking shelter from a storm. It's just the two of them, and they start talking, and they start realizing they're more similar than they are different, but they don't know that one of them is a goat and one of them is a wolf. And that's kind of the cool conceit. And by the end of the movie, the well, obviously spoiler, but the sheep is like, "What if you knew I was or a goat? What if you knew I was a goat when you walked into the cabin and you could see?" And he would be like, "Well, I would have eaten you." So this dynamic is actually pretty cool because if they can see each other, they can actually learn more about each other because when the wolf is like, yeah, my mom used to tell me that when I was young that if I don't eat enough, I won't have, enough energy to run when I need it the most. And then the goat is like, yeah, me too. And they're like, oh, I love eating at this one valley. And the goat's like, yeah, I love eating there too. And it's kind of like, you know, the predator is talking with his prey about eating him and they both don't know. And I think that's pretty cool. And eventually they become friends, and this is the whole conceit of the movie. It's them being friends, and what exactly are they exploring through it? And although I don't think the later half of the movie is entirely narrative focused, the first half of this movie is entirely idea focused and exploring what does it mean for this wolf and this goat to meet be friends, and what exactly does this mean for the society around them. And I actually found that kind of interesting because one, they actually take the characters seriously, which is great. And two, both of these characters are really comical in nature. I think I already went over this, but I think comedy actually enhances the flavor of this movie a lot because without it, I think it would be very, very snoozy and very, very too harsh for me to latch onto. But anyway, uh, I think that while you hear these characters talk about, or while you hear the wolf in specific talking in his mind, being like, man, I want to eat this guy so bad, but I won't because he's my friend, it's kind of like going against instinct in a way. When you think about it, the relationship between a goat and a wolf is very simple and it's very instinctual. Wolf eats goat, goat runs away from wolf and eats grass, and that's their entire relationship. But this movie kind of takes it and flips it on its head, um, and says, what if we complicate it? What if we say, well, both of these individuals like hanging out with each other. What happens if they begin to like each other to a point where they would even risk their lives for each other? And that's kind of, by the end, what we have as a scenario. Uh, so aside from that, I think that uh, the idea of this movie in the beginning is about racism. And the reason I think that is because this whole idea of similar or different but alike is constantly brought up. And to a large extent, I think that it's done to a point where if we didn't switch gears by the time it switched gears, I would have been over it by that first part, which is great because it did switch gears into something a bit more unexpected, which I also thought was cool. I don't want to discuss the idea too in depthly because it'll take too long. But the next idea they did go into in this next part of the movie is about, believe it or not, and this is coming out of left field for most people. They actually explore the idea of LGBTQ or them being gay. Now take that in for a second. Why am I applying human things like being gay to two animals that are a wolf and a goat? Well, let's take in for a second that this is fiction, and you can apply, or artists will often apply human things to uh, fictional art. It's whatever, man. It's just an idea. And anyway, they explore this idea to a point where I actually didn't want to believe it. And whether you want to criticize me for being in denial about it, I think that I was like, wait, are they actually going into this? Because I actually thought that was kind of cool the way they just kind of just segued from the ideas of racism between the two because you're like, if they were comparing each other's lifestyles in the beginning and now they're comparing each other in general because, you're no longer goat's meat. You're just a goat to me, and you're no longer, a predator to me. You're, a wolf to me, just, my buddy. And now they're exploring sort of each other's ideals, and then it sort of turns into them getting embarrassed for each other and sort of like talking in a way that suggests it might be an LGBT thing. I don't want to go too hard in on that idea because I may be just stupid or something, but I felt it. I was just like, I think they might be going into this, and I think it might be interesting if they hit a little bit harder on it because essentially what they're doing is a forbidden relationship, essentially between a wolf and a goat. It's a forbidden relationship because why would you hang out with the person you're gonna get killed by? Or why would you hang out with a person you need to kill to survive? And for that to, translate into, them being gay is not as big as a stretch as I'd like to make it to be. And I'd like to just stick with that. It's not a big a stretch at all. I think that sometimes Uh, I don't know how to articulate this actually. It's kind of hard to explain it without watching the movie because although they are companions, the suggestion that they are gay is only as far as you are willing to believe that they're simply just really emotionally invested people into each other from the very beginning or just really open. So I can't really tell you uh a lot about it, but I thought it was done well, and I thought that it was a compelling idea to analyze. I know someone probably has already done a full-on analysis on how it's a commentary on LGBT, and good for them, and I hope I can find it soon. But since I just watched this uh, right before I watched this other movie, I didn't have time to, since this is just rambling Randy. Anyway, the later half of the movie, not so great. I thought that the pacing was all right. The whole movie, the pacing was fine, and by the end, it kind of just got a little bit too rushed, and the writing kind of dropped off a lot, and there was a lot of empty space or empty and not needed scenes that I thought could have been cut out and then gave a more satisfying ending because the ending was just meh. I was like, really? Ended right there? And then there was this mid part of the final section where they're on a mountain, and I was just like, this is kind of drawn out and unnecessary, and it's kind of suggesting ideas we've already gone over, and it's not really that interesting anymore because, as I said, the most interesting parts of this movie is when they're discussing ideas and not so much the narrative of it because, like, if society is crumbling around them, there's essentially no idea to work with anymore because society was the main antagonist from the very start. Their relationship and them building through the movie was a great thing, and the society around them pressuring them into, contorting and pretty much betraying each other was the antagonist. And for them to overcome it, they simply did lover suicide, which they didn't do a lover suicide. They did it in a way that they survive and then they run away together like Romeo and Juliet. And I was like, okay, they die together, right? And then they don't die together. Which I guess is fine. They get their happily ever after, but it's not entertaining. Yep, unfortunate. Uh, yeah, I'm thinking probably 6 out of 10. That's what I'm got right now. 5 or 6 out of 10 because I do like the production levels. I do like the beginning parts of the movie. I thought it was really well done. But as it goes on, less of the narrative and keep 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 on going with the characters because their interactions grow less and less interesting with the more characters we add, which is a lot. Especially because like there's this I was thinking about this in the entire movie. Please do not do a flashback because I was I was just literally hoping because this whole movie I was like, okay, they haven't done one yet. Please do not do one. And then boom, 1 minute flashback from scenes we just saw, and I'm like, no, why flashback? I don't want this. Why do you have to do this to me? I don't want to. I just saw this. Yeah, not the best, I must say, but I do think it is well worth the watch if you're looking for something a bit more unique. I have to say the uniqueness factor is definitely there. There is a lot to work with in terms of ideas. I think it's very fluid with its ideas, and you could draw a lot of meaning from what I didn't even say. I just thought of racism and LGBT because those are the most obvious ones. And, I'd have to dig a little bit deeper, watch maybe, another time to really understand it, which I might. Although it's a 6 out of 10, I do think that it's a contender for something I might watch again. Um, but hey, we'll have to see. Anyway, I drink water. Anyway, next movie, Uchiage Hanabi Shita Kara Miru ka Yoko Kara Miru ka Fireworks. Should we see it from the side or the bottom? It's a production by Studio Shaft and directed by one of my favorite directors, Akiyuki Shinbo. And I gotta say, uh, this movie gets an A for appalling. I do not know how anyone can watch this movie and say, yeah, that was above a 1 out of 10. I literally am astounded by anyone who is that untalented and that brainless to just give this anything higher than a 1. I don't see it. I'm not being harsh. This is simply a fact. This movie is horrible. I cannot even begin. Actually, I can begin because I will begin. First 30 seconds, I was already like, this is cliche as hell. We start the movie underwater as one girl is falling deeper into an endless, voidless abyss of water, and then the main male character is holding his hand out like, don't let go, Jack. Don't let go. And then Jack lets go because Rose, I can't hold on any longer. And although, obviously it's very different scenarios, this is just like the stuff I'm working with here. Cut to uplifting, awesome J-pop music because boom, we're starting the movie. And I'm like, holy, this is not real. I'm not watching a real movie. Okay, let's get something straight. This is probably not Akiyuki Shinbo's fault. I love the dude, one of my top 10 industry leaders in terms of just absolutely deadlifting the industry on his back with just really creative and great products. This is not his best work, unfortunately. I mean, this is probably his worst work, in my opinion. And I don't know if it's his fault. I don't know who wrote this. I do know that it was not great. So let's not put all the blame on Akiki Shinbo because through his cinematography and through his directing, I think he did, what he could. But obviously, I think that probably Shaft told him, "Hey, you have two seconds to direct this." He's like, "Ah," and then he directed it, and then the writing stood for itself, and he's like, "Well, I did what I could." I have no idea the production, what happened behind the scenes, but I gotta say, let me just get into this, okay? So this beginning of this movie is an absolute mess. I have no idea what's going on, except that this main dude is just an idiot and keeps looking at this one girl, Nazuna. And I gotta say, these character designs are absurdly, disgustingly generic. Like, come on, we couldn't do anything memorable with these characters. Nothing. Are we serious? We just had to choose budget Senjo Gahara and then just just random brown haired dude that we just picked off the street. And I literally do not understand how we just could have picked any less normcore, just garbage character designs. And they're like 13, bro. Like at least could we make it this like a high school movie or something? Oh god damn. Seriously. The relatability factor just down the toilet with this one because first off, you got this garbage self insert that doesn't even feel like a self insert. You got these so Japanese quirk or just ugly Japanese writing quirk just filled with it. He just keeps saying oh, are, just every 2 seconds. It's so annoying. And yeah, he does this anime grunting too. Don't worry about it. He loves to do the anime grunting. Uh, anyway, the first 10 minutes of this movie is them just doing this really drawn out intro sequence where they're just riding a bike, going to school, and they have this massive mansion of a school. It's like Beverly Hills on steroids type of school. I have no idea what this is supposed to be. But anyway, they have a spiral staircase in the school. Like, what? And I'm just like, okay, a bunch of middle schoolers go to this absolute giant school, and I'm supposed to believe that they're all allowed to just not wear just like really fancy uniforms or anything like that. Yeah, that makes sense. They're just all lax. Hey, I don't know. It's whatever. Anyway, uh, they spend every waking moment of this first 10 minutes just shoving at the characters in our faces like I'm a baby. Like, you see the main girl? Let me show it to you again. Wait, you see our main guy? Let me show you him looking at our main girl so you know that this is foreshadowed. You know that I'm gonna show you this 10 more times because you need to know these characters. This is Nazuna and this is brown haired boy because he's awesome and he's gonna save the girl. Except, any attempt at him saving the girl later in the movie is absolutely pathetic and garbage. Lord have mercy on my soul. Please spare me from the despair. I gotta say, every waking moment or literally every scene in this movie made me want to puke. It made me want to just not watch it anymore. And you ask, why do you subject yourself to this one? Why do you do this to yourself? You're going mad. Well, I'm going mad with a purpose. You see, how can I watch a good movie or a fine movie like Arashi no Yoru ni and then watch Dowco fireworks and be like, yeah, those are the same quality? No, I just can't do that. I need to have contrast here. So yeah, that's my statement. Well, whatever. Anyway, the next part of this movie is examining this glass ball, which essentially acts as our sci-fi gimmick for this movie, which I don't think was necessary because this is the most pathetic excuse for a sci-fi gimmick of all time. Because guess what? It's just time travel, you scumbag! And yeah, I'd really have. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I hate flashbacks. I hate them. And time travel counts as a flashback because we just saw the goddamn scene. We just saw it. We don't need to see it again. And flashbacks are essentially that. I've already seen this. I don't need to see it again. Unless it's new footage. And shooting the same footage from a different angle doesn't count as new footage. It's still the same voice actor saying the exact same lines, and it's not intuitive whatsoever. Not intuitive. Now, the one show that did it right, Steins Gate, but that's for another time. Anyway, Dalco Fireworks decides I'm gonna be a time traveling romance movie with a side plot about this one friend and then this also stepdad plot. And none of these blend together even remotely closely because it's just a mishmash of just like, what's happening over here? What's happening over here? Oh, what's happening with the main couple? I don't think that any of the ideas by the end come to fruition in any coherent way. And it's just a mishmash of just like, I want to end the movie. So how can we do this in the longest and most and just asinine way possible? Oh yeah, let's just make them run and time travel for 3 times because that's what they do. In order to stretch this movie out to let me see how long this movie is. They stretch this movie to an hour and 30 minutes by simply just repeating the same scenes over and over again with no purpose. Literally no purpose. They go back in time, and he's like, I wish I could just repeat this sequence. And look, we're back here, and barely anything's changed. All I did was just move this guy a tiny inch or do something barely different that changes nothing about the plot. Because guess what? Main girl is a kudere. She doesn't say anything. She's this really idiotic and coy and bratty as hell budget Senjo Gahara, and she does literally nothing except um try to taunt our main character into running away with her for no reason. Like literally no reason. And she's just being a brat about it because my mom is remarrying again. I don't like that. I'm the classic run away from home because my mom's getting remarried, subgenre. It's so absurd. Like holy. And then we also have this other side plot with brown-haired dude's friends, where the black-haired dude actually likes budget Senjo Gohara, and then he gets mad when he when brown-haired dude starts, hanging out with her, and then he's like, "What the flippin' flapjacks?" But in the beginning, he actually gets to go out on a date with her, and then doesn't go out with her because he's like being coy about it, and then when brown haired dude gets the ability to time travel, he goes back in time and then goes on a date with her instead. And then black haired dude gets mad because I would have done it. Just trust me, bro. We already saw you. Why is this even a thing? So there's just a million thoughts going through my head about this movie. It's just so frustrating. And it's probably not even coherent coming from my statement right now. But I just gotta tell you that just ah it's so gruesome how they just butcher every single scene. It's like literally, it's literally worse than chopped liver. It's like I'm chopped liver, the movie's chopped liver, the world is chopped liver, everything is chopped liver, and it's not ironic. It's not even ironic, it's unironic. It's not even a joke movie. At least some movies are jokes. Garzi's wing, it's a joke. I don't get it. Come on. Subject myself to the worst torture possible. And then, like, for the last 15 minutes of this movie, I know I'm just skipping because, like, who cares? Who even cares? Like, really. For the last 15 minutes, just them running away from both the parent and then the stepdad of budget Senjo Gahara, and then brown haired dude's friend running after him because he's like, "You're with Bunchik Central Gahara, and I wanted to be with her." And then they're just running for the next 15 minutes, just time traveling over and over again to help them run away. And then eventually they're put into a goddamn like Matrix dimension where they're like, "I don't think I can go into the real world anymore because uh we'll be apart." And then it's like, no, you have to go back because blah blah blah, no one really cares. And then like the movie ends. That's it. They go back to the real world because he time travels too much and it messes up the world so much that he has to go back. And now the movie just ends like that. I don't get it. And they even have the gall to make them kiss at the end. What did I do to deserve this? Did I do anything wrong? Did I seriously slap Akiyuki Shinbo on the face or any of the writers board to say, yes, this movie made sense so much. Their relationship was so romantic and so earth-shatteringly just gourmet, like an absolute top of the line souffle, that they had to kiss at the very end with no motivation to at all, except for sappy, or I guess not sappy, but uplifting J-pop music, and just repeating the same thing over and over again. In the movie, there's this scene where Budget Shenjo Gohara does this karaoke sequence, and when we time travel again, we have to hear her do the same exact karaoke sequence. No way! They really did it. They said, you know that karaoke sequence you saw literally 15 minutes ago? Flashback! We're there again! And you have to hear her sing the same song! I'm just amazed at how idiotic this movie is. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. I just, please, save me from this waking nightmare. Somebody free me from this nightmare. I can't control myself. I, oh, oh God. It's just like pathetic excuse for a supporting cast as well. Like, who even are you, bro? An hour and 30 minutes. You know what you could have done with that budget? Could have made Sangatsu no Lion season 3. Or like, I don't think Sangatsu no Lion season 2 was out by this time, but could have saved the money for another, I don't know, anything other than this. Maybe that new Madoka movie. And we could have started working on it right now. Who knows? Who knows what's going through Akiyuki Shinbo's mind? Or who knows what's going through Shaft's mind? Why do I keep saying Akiyuki Shinbo? Like it's his fault. I don't think it's his fault. Am I copium? Is this copium? Am I just like, oh, it can never be Akiyuki Shinbo's fault? Maybe it is. Maybe I'm just copium right now. Oh, it's just how am I supposed to even live in a reality where this movie exists and people like it? Is this really a real thing? Somehow on Mao this pulls through with a 6.09. I'm literally not surprised. Literally not. But like every time I see this movie just upvoted, it's like, bro, you have to see this movie. It's generic, but it's also really, really good because I don't know, like what? Literally what? Even production values were not that great. There were scenes where the whites of the screen were so bright and well, I didn't I mean whites, I mean lights. The lights on the screen were literally so bright it's blinding and you can't even see the characters. Well, what am I missing? What am I missing out on, Little John? I don't get it. I don't get it. Someone free me from this nightmare because I can't control myself. Man, can we get much higher? So high. Oh, 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 oh,